What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So, big game was delayed. It's out of this year now. It's going into 2020, and it's kind of messing with a game that I thought would probably be a contender for a game of the year. This year, not going to be the case anymore, and there are some other things to it as well to go over with the Switch version, and even a game that was supposed to be attached to it. It's all over the place right now, but we're going to go over it just so you can get it caught up to speed and everything with it. And then we got to talk about the Atari VCS because the hits just keep on coming for this thing. Like, it's bad right now, and I think it's still gonna kind of come out, but we're gonna talk about that as well because this is something else right now. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure you hit the like button; it does help out, and get subscribed down below with the bell notification on, so you can keep up to date with all the gaming news going on in the gaming world. And we're gonna start today with Concrete Genie, and the reason I'm starting with that is because I think a lot of people may have forgotten about this game, and it's very creative looking, and I actually picked it up yesterday. I'm probably gonna be playing through a good portion of it today, but it is out, and it came out to, I'd say, good reviews for the most part. It wasn't like a high budget, big game that was gonna be created. It comes out at a $30 price tag, and it's a very creative looking game, so I wanted to point it out. On Metacritic, it currently has a 77 with an 8.3 user score, and several places have actually given it high remarks and recommending a purchase, so I went ahead and picked it up. The biggest thing that seems to be an issue for some people is the runtime of the game. It doesn't appear to be a very long game, so that might be something you might want to be aware of. It appears to be somewhere between 5 to 7 hours is what I've seen so far. It does have PlayStation VR support, but to be honest, hooking that thing up is a whole thing, so I'm gonna probably check it out after I finish my initial playthrough just to see what I was missing out on, I guess, with VR. But Concrete Genie, you don't need VR to play it. You can play it straight up, and it might be worth a look. I think just people may have forgotten about it, so I wanted to put it out there. Oh, and do you remember Simpsons Hit and Run? This is back on like the GameCube, the Xbox, the PS2. I think it was even on PC, but this was a really, really cool game. And what would you say to something like a remaster? That's something I would be all for. I think it'd be really, really cool. Well, the producer of that game actually talked in an interview about it, saying, "I could see it on multiple different types of platforms as a remake or a remaster. It would have to take the parties who are in charge of the property to want that to happen, and someone out there to decide that they were going to go out and do it, but absolutely, it'd be fun to explore those characters in that universe again." And this is from Vlad Saraldi, and yeah, that would be really cool. Now, if you don't know, Simpsons Hit and Run was inspired by Grand Theft Auto. It came after Simpsons Road Rage, and they were trying to figure out a way to make it a bit different. Otherwise, you're just making the same exact game, and yeah, Hit and Run was great. You explore the Simpsons, of course, they say Simpsons universe, Simpsons world and everything. They had fun little missions. All the different characters were in there, and the story was a little crazy, brought in aliens and stuff, but I mean, it was a video game with the Simpsons. Sure, why not? It was fun. Now, if they remade it and put it on everything, the Switch, the PS4, the Xbox One, and maybe did like a revised version for the PC with like more modernized options and settings, ultra wide, 4K and all that stuff, that'd be really, really neat. I think a remaster would be more in the cards than a full remake, but it's also going to kind of come down to all of the parent companies actually getting together and making that happen. But hey, maybe if fans are loud enough, they'll see some reason to do it with some, of course, money to be made. Also, we had heard some rumblings of Call of Juarez Gunslinger possibly coming to the Switch, and now it looks like that is happening as a ratings, as you're seeing here from the ESRB, has now happened. And yes, Call of Juarez Gunslinger for the Nintendo Switch is from Techland, appears to be happening. Now, they have not made any formal announcement now with a release date or anything. I assume if it's been rated at this time, we could see it just basically be dropped on Twitter, and then maybe a digital only release, and they're like, hey, go pick it up, in November or something, even December. If it's already been rated and we're getting close to the mid-October, possibly could even be revealed in like a week or two. So cool stuff there. Now, here's the thing. Call of Juarez has had some bad entries and some good ones. Now, you might be thinking of the Cartel, where they tried to bring it into modern times. Not good. That one didn't go over that well, but Gunslinger actually was really well received. People really liked it. It went back to the Western time period, and I think that was a big sticking point for a lot of people, was going from modern times to the Western, and they liked that a lot more. So it might be worth checking out. We're going to have to see pricing and everything, but cool to see a game that, yeah, what came out in like 2013 on the 360, the PS3 and everything, and Windows, and it was kind of at that weird time where everyone was starting to talk about the PlayStation 4 and everything. So so might be neat to see it get re-released again on something like the Switch just to bring it back into the focus. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff because we do have a big game getting delayed, and it is a shame. Look, I know sometimes games just need to be delayed. That's the way it is. There's a lot of stuff obviously coming out, and we have stuff to, of course, check out and everything already, so losing one game for a few months isn't a big deal, but it is odd some of the stuff going on around it. We're going to talk about that real quick, and that game is Doom Eternal, falling out of late November into 2020. This was the message they put out on Twitter, as you're seeing here, a large picture with a bunch of stuff here, and it says, to make sure we're delivering the best experience for Doom Eternal to live up to our standards of speed and polish, we've made the decision to extend our launch date by a few months to March 2020. We know many fans will be disappointed by this delay, but we are confident that Doom Eternal will deliver a gaming experience that is worth the wait. In addition to shifting the Doom Eternal launch date, we've made a couple other changes we want you to know about. Now, they go over invasion mode, as they say, which will allow you to enter another player's game as a playable demon, will release as a free update shortly after launch. Here's the other kicker. Doom Eternal for Nintendo Switch will release after the other platforms. We'll announce that date in the future, so we don't know even when the Switch version's coming out at this point. Doom 64 is going to also be going to the Xbox One, PS4, and PC, and that's going to be pushed all the way to March 2020, but that will be added in as a pre-order bonus for Doom Eternal, so apparently if you pre-order Doom Eternal, you'll just get that game, which is pretty cool to see. Here's the thing though, a lot of question marks now. Why is the Switch version not coming out the same day? That's what a lot of people who are looking to get it on the Switch are going to be wondering. And how much longer do they have to wait? Now, I was going to get it on a couple different platforms anyway, because I understand the Switch version will be, 30 frames and lower resolution and everything. And I kind of want to check it out on either the Xbox One X or the PC just to see, how Doom would be running in up to standards and everything for them. I am curious what they can get out of the Switch as well. But now we're getting a staggered release here. The Switch hopefully won't be out more than a month or two, but what if it falls to, say, I don't know, September? That would be a long delay. Not only that, but Invasion Mode won't be ready for release. So I'm a little curious as to why all of this is going down, because they seemed fairly sure about that late November release. And now all of a sudden it's been pushed months back when we're getting pretty close. I mean, it's October. We would have been almost a month and a half out from release, and now they're pushing it back. So very odd stuff there. Doom 64 is another one that confuses me. I'm not sure why that didn't just stay as its release date. And they're like, hey, we got to push Doom Eternal, but Doom 64 is going to stay there. You could pick it up then, and when get you ready for Doom Eternal. It's still weird that they're shifting those around as a pair, because if it comes out the same day as Doom Eternal, a lot of people are just going to play Doom Eternal, I feel. Maybe it's me. I feel like a lot of people are going to play the newest entry and then come back to Doom 64. So it'd be better if Doom 64 comes out first and then Doom Eternal. Just a thought. Weird stuff there when it comes down to this. So a lot of question marks still here around Invasion Mode and the Switch port. It is a shame that the Switch port is not coming out day and date. They seem pretty sure about it, and now we seem to be thrown into some uncertainty all the way around. So we'll see. The other weird thing about this is I've talked to people who played it at different shows, whether it was like PAX or E3 and everything. Some people even played it on Stadia, and it seemed fine. Like, it seemed ready. It was very polished. It ran well enough on Stadia, but other versions ran great, so I'm not sure what the delay is all about here. But hey, if they need more time, they need more time. We'll just hope that the Switch version doesn't fall too much outside of the other ones, but I guess we'll look towards March for when it launches. I'm also curious if maybe they're like, Animal Crossing's in March. Maybe we'll just wait a little bit on the Switch version. Seems like it would just hurt the sales either way if they're not going to get it out on time. So, we'll see how all this goes down. Next up, let's talk about the Atari VCS. This has been a disaster, right? I mean, that's the only way I can look at it. They did a massive crowdfunding, of course, millions and millions of dollars coming in to get this done, tons of backers. Seems like everything's going pretty well right in the beginning, and then we get radio silence for a while. We're not seeing the system running. We get a weird picture of a motherboard that almost looked like it just came out of the assembly line, and it was from a 24-hour turnaround period factory, and it was all over the place. And now it looks like Rob Wyatt is actually out of there. Remember we talked about how he was working on another project, and I wasn't really sure how that was going to work out. He's working on another project, but then he's also supposed to be designing the Atari VCS. He's like their system architect, their designer on this thing. Well, this is what he had to say. The Register, well, they followed up with him. They said, well, it looks like Rob White's doing something else. Let's go ask him. Well, get ready for this one because this is what he said. As of Friday, October 4th, I have officially resigned as the architect of the Atari VCS. Going beyond that, Rob Wyatt also says that they have not been paid. His company, his consulting company, has not been paid for 6 months from Atari. That's right, they're not paying him at all. And he just said, well, hey, what do you want me to do? If I'm not getting paid for this project, I have to go find another project so, I can make some money and for the company. So yeah, he would of course leave. And this is a weird situation because Rob Wyatt also mentions that they didn't even get the board until last month. And he was working to debug it and just get everything set up, and now he's off the project. So what's happening? Well, apparently Atari is setting all of this up so that, well, us the early bird people are going to be the ones who are going to be basically debugging this in early access. I'm not even kidding. This was actually put out in a Medium post where they were updating us, and they say, hey guys, get the early access, that'd be me, and I'm sure several other people since they raised so much money. Well, we're going to be responsible for doing that, apparently. As they say, getting it, you'll have sandbox mode, which is basically just Linux, is what it sounds like, and we'll be the ones to basically figure out what's going on with the OS as we go along in early access. So we're getting this shipped to us. It's not actually going to be ready to go necessarily for mainstream release, which is happening in March of next year, where it's going to launch at GameStop and Walmart for mass production, I guess, at that point. So it'll be up to us to double check everything and make sure it's all good on the OS. Now, Atari did manage to respond to IGN. The Register actually gave them about 6 days to respond, and they got nothing from Atari. And well, this is what Atari said to IGN. It is Atari's policy not to comment on an isolated matter under dispute, only to say that the Atari VCS project has always been a team effort, and its success has never been and will never be dependent on any single individual or partner. And well, this is great. So it looks like Atari's just not paying their lead system designer. That's probably not the greatest move, right? I don't know why you wouldn't pay that. You raised millions of dollars. I mean, you figure you pay the person who's in charge of designing and getting this thing ready for release to send to your backers, and then eventually get to the point where you're going to sell it, to the mainstream. Not only that, but their stock took a massive hit, and what happens? Well, now they are pumping out update after update, trying to work towards in early access. Now, by the way, that's the first time I've heard of any of this early access stuff, is all of a sudden now, in early access, they're trying to get this thing out the door. I think they're still going to get it to us in December, but I don't think it's going to be anything like we've been hearing. I think it's going to be a bare bones kit that comes out. It's going to be a basic motherboard. They also told us about the underside of it, which is where I figured the memory would be, and it's just basically RAM slots on the underside, where they will include one 4GB stick to get it into Walmart's, as Walmart allegedly told them that they wanted it at 250 or less, so they took one of the 4GB sticks out, so it's going to run in single channel. That's going to be great. Otherwise, though, it'll come with two 4GB DDR4 memory sticks on the bottom in dual channel for early bird backers, where they upgraded it to 8GB. This is all over the place. I don't know how well this is going to go down. Unfortunately, it's looking more and more like the Atari VCS has become an embarrassment, and even Atari themselves don't want to comment on what's actually happening to set the record straight, probably because the record can't be set straight. It's a bad situation, unfortunately, for backers like myself and everything. Of course, I put it in just because we'll take it apart on the channel and everything. I'm more frustrated, I guess, for the people who put the money in, who were actually looking to get something really, really cool out of it. I already wasn't sure when I did it, and I was like, we'll play around with it here, it's fine. But for people who legitimately wanted this thing to be really good, it's a shame. But hey, you know what? When that shows up on my door in December, as they've promised, by the way, so they're debugging it now. 2 months from now, I'm supposed to get it. So that'll go well. We'll see how that goes down. And then we'll take a look at it. In our last bit of news, let's talk a bit about the PlayStation 5 and its backwards compatibility for the PS4? This is a question I had asked quite a bit when I did the video yesterday, which I would check out if you missed it, just going over all of the stuff that we learned yesterday about the PlayStation 5. One of the things I kept seeing commented on, will it be compatible with the PlayStation 4? Just specifically the games. So if you buy a game, you know, like the month before or something, let's say Ghost of Tsushima comes out in like October and the PS5 launches in November, will it work? Most likely, yes. But I say most likely because even Sony's not ready to say that it's 100%. This is actually done with Famitsu. DualShockers managed to do a translation, not through like Google Translate or anything like I would do, but through their own translator, saying, our development team is currently hard at work in order to make 100% backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4 possible. Please wait for further information. And looking at that, it does indeed look like they're not 100% sure, and there probably are some games are trying to work through. I kind of thought that we would just get patches. So like with the Xbox One, we would wait for essentially patches to happen, and then we would get the 360 game being backwards compatible. I was kind of hoping, since this is probably, I'm just gonna put this out there, this is probably gonna be the last disc-based system, the PS5 and the Scarlet. I was hoping they would go all out and make it fully backwards compatible. So if you have a PS3 disc, a PS2 disc, PS1, PS4, you pop it in and it works. Unfortunately, that will probably not happen. It would be great, and I hope it does, but most likely what's going to happen is most of the PS4 games, like 80%, will be backwards compatible. Maybe patches will come out later, and then maybe they could do something with PS2 and PS1. PS3 is the big problem, and if they can get that working, hats off, that would be amazing. But let's focus at least on the PS4 right now, because those are the current games that people are probably spending the majority of their time playing. Like, I don't think a lot of people are going back and like, oh, I gotta play all of these PS2 games. There are people who have probably just recently purchased PS4 games even leading up to the PS5 release, and that's really what they want to play. And hey, maybe they can get some really cool enhancements, frame rate being completely solid, higher resolution and everything, fast load times apparently. So we'll see, but hopefully they have it worked out, and hopefully we find out all of this stuff in February or March. Early next year, I think, is when we gotta get that blowout on the PS5, and then we got a full year of marketing leading into the launch in, I would say, November. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from Wesley, saying, EA is just a joke by now. That's something everybody already knows though, but not everybody understands, I don't, is how or why people keep spending money on them. Well, EA, as much as we make fun of them and complain about them, they are smart. And one of the smartest things they did was lock up the NFL license for Madden so that they didn't have to contend with 2K. But on the flip side, they've struggled with basketball. So they've kind of surrendered basketball and they've taken football, and they're kind of working into different spots where people just, they have to buy it. Like, there are people who just buy Madden and Call of Duty every year, and EA profits heavily. The Sims makes them an obscene amount of money. This is the way it is. And here's the thing about EA, they're trying to make sure, they're trying to get necessities, they're trying to muscle out competition through license deals like I said with the NFL, but EA actually was a good company back in the day. That's the part that kills me, and I'm sure some of you who remember the old EA, EA games, Challenge Everything, all that. It is a shame to see how far they've fallen, because once they got enamored with live services and loot boxes, that's the primary focus. It's basically like, how can we get these loot boxes, these microtransactions, these live services attached to the games, and then we're worried about trying to build the game. And that's kind of how I see something like Anthem, where they were more enamored with the idea of a live service game, and then they're like, well, how can we make this interesting? I know, let's do something like an Iron Man game. And they were like, yeah, sure, whatever, build it, put it out, and we'll fix it later. That's unfortunate, but it's EA. Once you wrap up the Madden license, they've never really been pushed. The last time they were pushed was 2005. It's been that long. Ladies and gentlemen, go to here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. The like button really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's Doom Eternal getting delayed out of this year into 2020. I understand delays, and sometimes they just happen, but it is odd that even the Switch version is like definitely like to be determined. Like, when is it coming out? We don't know. It's not part of that release date window. So who knows there? And then also, what about the Atari VCS and that whole situation? Because it just goes from bad to worse to just really bad. Hey, we'll see what shows up in December. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.